I'm Robin Murphy with the Center for Robot Assisted Search and Rescue. Welcome to the Disasters and Donuts podcast, where you'll learn about disaster robotics and the time it takes to have a cup of coffee and savor a donut. In this episode, we'll describe the top 7 things that agencies can do now to be able to use unmanned aerial systems effectively for a hurricane. And we'd like to give a big shout out to Jeff Braun, the former director of the Fort Bend County Office of Emergency Management, for his helpful discussions. CRASAR's participated in 8 hurricanes, starting with Hurricane Charlie, and 6 of those have been with small unmanned aerial systems. Hurricane Katrina, that was the first use, Wilma, Harvey, Irma, Maria, and Michael. We've seen flooding, wind damage, storm surge, and we fielded 3 to 8 squads at a time, working under TFRs and completing over 350 flights in the past 2 years. So since 2005, we think we've learned some things about small unmanned aerial systems and hurricanes that will be a benefit in thinking about how to organize a response with small UAS. But first off, what are the advantages of having small unmanned aerial systems if you're an emergency manager? Well, it's going to enable rescue operations to be conducted faster, more efficiently, more safely. You can see the victims, but more importantly, you can see the routes to the victims. What's the best way, the fastest way there? You can conduct faster drainage and debris assessments, and that's going to allow you to be able to restore services and to make contracts for the cleanup, get those in place faster, and overall have a faster economic recovery. You'll be able to inspect and monitor critical infrastructure, your bridges, your roads, your levees, and you can see whether they're under flood load or if there are changes in the currents due to the drainage, but also be able to monitor the changes over time. Also, videos can help deter citizens from trying to re-enter neighborhoods. At Harvey, they were dangerously flooded and filled with sewage, or other hurricanes with wind damage, they may not realize that the roads are truly impassable at this point in time. And unmanned aerial systems can help establish a broad county government and citizen support for these types of activities. It shows that your municipality, your organization is out there trying to do the best technology they can to make things better for everyone else. So let's get started. Number 1, you should create a policy on unmanned aerial systems. This is so important and it can't be done overnight. One level of policy is easy. You can say something like, oh, we'll make available all the data, as soon as, privacy and accountability. But, now you got to think about the policy in terms of flying the UAVs. Who's got the insurance? Who owns the liability? What about the FAA regulations? Who are you training? It's not just training people on how to fly, but how do you train them on emergency response? How do you train them to fly in disaster-like conditions? So there's a lot there. There's also, with your policy, you should be thinking about the chain of custody. It's not just about people going out flying, getting a bunch of data, and then dropping it off. You've got to trust where it came from. You've got to be able to go back and know for sure what it is. And that means data management's part of your policy. Do you even have enough hard drive space to save all the data you're going to be given? Who's going to be in charge of sorting it out? Who's going to keep up? So you really need to create or update your unmanned aerial system policy now so that you can be ready for when the hurricane hits. Number 2, get or keep your public officials and the public engaged and aware that you're doing this. Of course, buy-in's essential, but it may mean starting small with your unmanned aerial system program. Let's take Harvey. 112 flights by 10 pilots from 6 institutions or companies, able to fulfill all the requests. What a success story. Except that didn't happen overnight. Fort Bend County had spent 2 years and 3 prior flooding events before Harvey. Each time, Locke McMullen and Jeff Braun would keep highlighting those events and building on them with with the county officials, the county judge, everybody, the public, so that when Harvey hit, the county, from citizens all the way up to the top people in charge, the lawyers, the county attorney, were comfortable and they knew how to use those assets effectively. Identify your unmanned aerial system assets. Go ahead and see what agency have experienced pilots and platforms. You may be able to get an EMAC agreement or set up MOUs. You don't want to rely on or be accountable for volunteers you've never met, who aren't familiar with ICS or disasters, and that arrive days after the events. So you need to know what's right there within your own jurisdiction or nearby. Number 4, determine how to work within the existing response organizational structure, especially the air bosses or air directorate. A lot of times we think unmanned aerial systems are new, so they require new structures, but you need to think about the existing organization structures. It's better to work within the system. Try and groom a couple of people who can be the unmanned aerial system air boss and include that position in your organization structure. Have them sit side by side with the manned air boss. And try to have a pool of candidates that could fill the position, because if you only have one, you might not have him or her when you really need them. And additionally, if you're running 12-hour shifts and you may be flying UAVs at night, you'll need multiple individuals to fill the position, even in an ideal situation. 5, practice with your flyers and your data managers. So flying isn't just about flying your personnel that are pilots. You've also got to practice things like personnel accountability and the data management protocols. There's specialty skills. You may need night flying. You may need to be flying from airboats or from very cluttered environment. These are a very different set of skills, and all of them are important if you're going to get the right data safely and get it in a format that you can quickly understand what you have and distribute to the right people so they can make the right decisions. Number 6, start mapping vulnerable areas now with your unmanned aerial systems, and don't count on being able to download Google Maps. You can't count on Google or Pictometry that may be 2 years old. You've got a lot of development, there's seasonal changes, all of these things. Plus, what a great opportunity to give your UAS teams practice. Plus, it grants them familiarity with all the vulnerable areas that you want to get to, so they kind of know all the ways to get back there. If one road's cut off or something, they can be thinking about that months in advance. Number 7, last but not least, go ahead and create a plan with a timeline and actions. For example, 2 days before, you might on your timeline say, activate the core UAS teams and have them update the mapping of vulnerable areas, X, Y, and Z. Next on the checklist might be identify who will be the UAS air boss and get them with the director of air operations. They both should start communicating with the FAA about their needs and get a heads up on what the FAA expects to do, because it's been different for every disaster. Okay. Remind any departments or agencies of policies. For example, you might want to tell your agencies to treat small unmanned aerial systems like helicopters, to make requests through ICS, STARS, or whatever is your distribution mechanism, not just get a friend of a friend to fly for them. Another thing on your checklist might be to identify the data managers and what format you want the data, what content you're going to want, that sort of thing. Who should be providing what information to whom. And another important part of any plan is, when would the UAS teams be deactivated? Are they deactivated when the evacuation order is over? Are you going to have a recovery set of missions? So you need to think through those and have that on your little checklist so that you can work through them as the disaster unfolds. So hopefully this will get you started. We have lots of other material on our website that's more about flying UAS for hurricanes and for other disasters as well. So as always, we're here to help. If you have questions, please ask. And if you have data or experiences that we can incorporate, please let us know. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out our website at crazar.org for tips on safely and rationally integrating unmanned aerial systems into disasters. And it has a list of our classes and publications as well.